The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Faster by, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. It's an open line through to one. By the way, if you heard yesterday's programme, we were live with the students of Ramsey Grammar School. If you've got anything you'd like to follow up on what was said yesterday, some very interesting points of view, interesting standpoints. Ramsey Grammar School yesterday. Next Tuesday we're at Castle Rushen High School in Castletown. The week on Tuesday the 11th at St Ninian's in Douglas. So we're getting around all the high schools just to see what tomorrow's voters and taxpayers have to say. I wonder what they say about Manx Care. Crikey, it's all happening. There's outcry from MHKs and the public alike after Manx Care's plans to cut services were only revealed via speculation and an embargoed press release being leaked by Ramsey MHK Laurie Hooper. I think we'll call it a media release, shall we? We're in the 21st century. Further funding has now been secured from Treasury, which the healthcare provider says means planned actions can now be reduced. Now, those cuts that are still going ahead include a temporary reduction to elective care for the remainder of the financial year, which, if you need me to remind you, is to the end of March. So February and March are affected. For patients getting treatment off island, it means a pause to non-urgent procedures in Liverpool and Manchester till the end of March. On the Isle of Man, the additional funding will enable many appointments to go ahead over the next 2 months, while those who do have their appointments disrupted will have them rearranged as early as possible from April. Get the picture. The timeline of this week's events has been fairly unclear, particularly in relation to who knew what and when. It's something that the Manx Care Chief Exec, Teresa Cope, has been talking about. This is Teresa Cope.
So we hadn't, at that point, got all of the necessary approvals and sign-off outside of Manx Care.
So why was it sent to the press then?
Because we had done our element of planning. We were ready to go, the Manx Care board. In order to be able to implement this from the 1st of February, we needed to act quite quickly, and ideally we would have wanted to have informed everybody of these plans at that point. You know, it has taken longer than I think that we would all like, and I think in the meantime, because the planning has still had to continue as though we were starting next week, there has been a crossover, and I think that has meant the public hasn't had the information it has needed in a timely way.
Is Manx Care arm's length or not?
We are arm's length. It is really important that the board is able to make the appropriate decisions, taking into account quality, safety, our financial responsibilities. But equally, we are a small island, and our staff, our patients are all constituents, and this is where ultimately Manx Care would want to make sure that the decisions it makes do take account of stakeholder views, political views, and we all work together for the best interests of the island's populations.
The Health Minister gets up in Tynwald last week and says,
as far as I'm aware, no services are under threat.
Do you agree that she was not aware of any cuts, or was she briefed on the cuts?
I think the plans weren't finalised.
So she knew of some cuts though?
We always share the plans. The ability for those plans to be agreed and signed off was yet to be absolutely nailed.
Well, we've been speaking to Claire Christian, the Health and Social Care Minister. As we've heard, the Chief Exec, Teresa Cope, seems to think she was briefed on the proposed cuts. Claire Christian told Tynwald, as far as I'm aware, no services are under threat. This is Claire Christian.
So in Tynwald on the 21st of January, the Honourable Member Julie Edge asked if I would make a statement about the possibility of strike action by doctors. And I was pleased to announce that in Tynwald that the latest pay offer of the doctors was being considered formally by the BMA, which resulted in the strike action being deferred. There were obviously supplementary questions asking whether doctors' pay offer would directly lead to threats and cuts in services or extra budget being required by Manx Care. And in response to these questions, I advised it was not. There is obviously, in terms of the timing of this, prior to that, a week earlier, Manx Care had issued a press statement, which I saw at that point when it had been issued, and the department and I requested that, as it was embargoed, that be reviewed. I was putting my case and the department case or certainly from my perspective and the department members, that I felt that the on-island elective should continue.
So you said that you were aware of the press release, which was embargoed, which means you were aware of those cuts. So was it disingenuous to say in Tynwald that you weren't aware of any services that were under threat?
So I was answering in relationship to the Doctors' Pay Awards.
OK, just so we can categorically clear it up, do you deny that you misled Parliament then?
I did not mislead Parliament.
We asked the Chief Minister if he was going to be asking for your resignation. He said that we need to put that question to you. So do you feel it's your responsibility to resign after what's being described as chaos? So the Chief Minister has not asked for my resignation. I have been working extremely hard to keep and maintain the elective surgery on island, those procedures to continue. I feel that had I not been in this position, I feel that I have worked extremely hard to achieve that. I am incredibly sorry that there has been miscommunication, and there's definitely, we definitely need to review how this is done in the future.
Well, this is important. It's really important because for the next 2 months, people's lives are going to be affected till the new financial year starts in April. We understand money is tight. We've been told it time and time again. So we understand that. I just wonder what your thoughts are, particularly if this is going to affect you or someone you know and love. Any thoughts? Text, email, call and WhatsApp. Anything else you want to talk about, by all means, get in touch. It's an open line today. And Julian's on now. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Andy. How you doing?
Very well, thanks. Yes, I had an interesting time at Ramsey yesterday.
Yes, interesting. I listened to it carefully. We'll have a chat about that another time if you'd like.
Yes, by all means.
Just before I got on the subject, interesting the comments about Manx Care. That there's a communication issue, considering that it was the nature of that communication was leaked. I would have thought more that the focus should really be on the costs of everything. Now, Claire Christian, she's been asked to resign. She's only been there about 5 seconds. From memory, Teresa Cope has been actually the CEO of Manx Care for 4 years now. She's complaining about budget cuts and stuff, but hang on a minute. Where does the buck stop? It can't be the minister. I mean, I can't imagine Claire Christian has been at the coalface working in the offices doing stuff. This has got to be Teresa Cope. It's, where has this mess actually been? Where's the administration point of this?
Yeah, let's get it straight. Nobody's asked Claire Christian to resign. It was just a hypothetical question that was put that perhaps she should reconsider. Nobody's asking that, and that's one thing to put straight. But as you say, Teresa Cope has been sitting in that chair for quite a while now, and where we are. But I mean, they surely knew how much money was coming in. They knew. I mean, that's the whole point of a budget. You know how much is coming in. You know how much you're likely to spend, and Manx Care is in the hole.
Well, I mean, Howard said it, 408 people, and we've seen knocking about the price structure, the wage structure for, what's 408 times whatever they were saying? That's a lot of money that's all of a sudden been found to hire these people, and what are they doing? Anyway, I'm sure it will sort itself out, but I think that was probably an unfair question for Claire Christian. I mean, she's literally just come in the door, so I can't see that that's a valid question even to ask. I noticed that Ørsted have posted leaflets through most people's doors about their Mannin offshore wind farm off Ramsey. However, the online version has a lot more detail, and what I'm especially interested in is on page 7, and that is titled Reduction in the Size and Specification of Offshore Infrastructure. Now remember, Andy, the word reduction. So they're saying on this new document that is like the online long-form version of this leaflet, the original specification was for 100 turbines, each 389 metres tall, but reduced to 87 turbines, each of 350 metres in height. So at first sight, this looks like Ørsted are doing us a favour by reducing the size and number of the turbines. However, if you take a quick glance and ask the question, whether it be on Google or you can use AI, you can ask ChatGPT if you want, what is the height of the largest wind turbines currently produced? And the answer is the General Electric Haliade-X, which is 260 metres high. So they're saying they're reducing the size of their 2032 model to 350. So that means that the planned Mannin turbines are going to be 300 feet higher than the biggest turbines that are available now in 2025. But it gets worse. The moving blades will sweep a far larger area, 75% larger. So if you calculate it out, these big ones are going to be 78,500 square metres, or they'll sweep 19 acres. So if you imagine, the Shard is 310 metres tall. So imagine a Ferris wheel 130 feet higher than the Shard. Or look at it another way. This is 7 times bigger in dimensions to the London Eye. 7 times bigger than the London Eye, and there'll be 87 of them. The Ørsted info also mentions the size of the wind farm sea area is reduced to 211 square kilometres. So we're going to have 87, more than the Shard in height, Ferris wheels across 52,000 acres of sea. So if we compare this, the wind turbines that we sail by going to Heysham at Walney are on average somewhere between 107 and 164 metres high. So the turbines for Mannin are going to be 3 times the height of the turbines that we go past on the boat, and 7 times the swept area of those Walney ones.
It's a fairly safe assumption that should they be built, they are going to dominate the seascape.
This is huge. The top of the tip of the turbine is going to be level with when you come over the mountain towards Ramsey and you first go down the dip and you see the northern plain. I mean, these are big. I mean, 1,200 feet high. If you talk about, how we think about the difference visually. So if you imagine you've got one of the older 42-inch televisions, this is like going from a 42-inch television, the biggest ones available at the time, which is now this General Electric one, and you're going up to a 110-inch giant one like you get when you watch the football in a pub. So the observed size is hugely different.
So just get this straight then. They're going from 389 to 350. Is 350 the top of the tower? It's not the top of the blades that sweep round.
That's the top of the blade. So that's the overall height.
Oh, so it's the top of the blade sweep.
That's right.
Right,
but
okay.
The biggest ones, which are only normally in deep water to keep them away from people because they're so huge, is 300 feet shorter. So it's 300 feet taller, these, and they're going to be 6 miles from the Isle of Man. So if you turn the 6 miles around, that's like Ramsey to Snaefell. If you look up at Snaefell, imagine 87 taller than the Shard Ferris wheels at Snaefell from Ramsey. That's what we're talking about. I mean, is this even a serious proposal? I mean, these things are vast. These are 7 times bigger in terms of swept area.
What's your opinion then? What's your opinion, Julian? Do you think yes or no? Would you like them or not?
No. I mean, is this a sleight of hand when somebody says, we're going to reduce them down to 350? But you just take a look. These things are going to make the biggest ones in the world now look small. I mean, they're 95 stories, these new ones are going to be. 95-story skyscraper. and 87 of them. I mean, what's that going to do to the view when you've got 87 to 100 of them?
All right. Okay, Julian, we appreciate it. Thanks for calling today.
Thanks, Andy. Cheers.
Good to hear from you. I want to go to Howard now. Hi, Howard.
Hello, Andy. A stranger Julian just mentioned, but I was asking a question. Is when you were on holiday and Beth was on, but it came through that the number of employees now owned with the government had been increased by over 430 something.
Yeah.
But, as Julian just mentioned, 408 of them were with Manx Care. And I asked a question because there was supposed to be somebody coming on, but the weather was against it and they didn't turn up, this, that and the other. Asked the question, how many of those 408 are frontline persons and how many are in managerial, in diversity, various other aspects of non-jobs, and earning 50, 60 or even more, up to £100,000 a year. And that's pensionable and all, which is had to be paid continuously. So 408 out of the 430 odd government employees in the last X number of years increase. How many are working in the wards, in the surgeries and various aspects of it? We never got that answer because the person who was supposed to turn up during that week when Beth was on the Mannin Line didn't. I think it was to do with the weather or something like that, but there was, we never got an answer. So can somebody, government or the minister, or, well, you wouldn't get a truthful answer out of the hospital as such, but how many of these people are employed as nursing staff, where they're on the front line, on the wards, etc., and how many in the back room pushing pens around desks?
Well, it will be interesting to know, and the fact that you say that, some of those salaries, they may well be the going rate, Howard, we don't know, but they may well be the going rate somewhere else, and we don't know.
But the thing, sorry, Andy, but that going rate, as you say, is a figure that's invented in lots of cases. It's not. If you put a diversity officer, unless there's diversity officers in the government spine of pay awards, then it's a figure they can put there, but these are non-jobs. Donald Trump's just done the best thing now. He's just gone with a knife and just cut it off at the ground, because these people are costing us, it's costing the government money, and it's costing people's lives because of diversity. I'm not racist or anything like that, but the job went along quite well before all these people come on the face of the earth, and they're absorbing money like a huge sponge, and they're creating jobs to keep themselves in work. The old triangle, the pyramid. So a question that should be put to the government, and they can ask because they are providing the funds through us, how many of those people who are employed, over 400 extra people, are frontline staff, and what were the others?
Okay.
So that's a question I asked, and Beth said yes, she would ask the person who was coming on, but unfortunately other things happened and that person never got on the programme for one reason or another.
Okay, Howard, we appreciate it. Thanks for calling. Have a good weekend now.
And you, take care, Andy.
Bye-bye
Thanks,
now. We got a message in, by the way, from somebody who works for Manx Care. I'm not giving the number out. We're not giving a name out or anything like that. And this is somebody who works for Manx Care. So I'm just going to read out what they've said. I work for Manx Care and we're threatened daily by managers. If we point concerns to do with clients' health and safety, we're told, by the way, clients are patients nowadays, what they call patients, clients. We're told it's nothing to do with you. Now, staff can't leave because they'll lose their back pay from last year's pay rise that's still ongoing. If you retire or you leave, you don't get back pay. Morale is non-existent, from shift patterns to bullying. Now, you take that with however many grains of salt you want. That may be a disgruntled employee. It could be straight from the hip. It could be absolutely genuine. But that's the message we're getting through from people, that morale is low in Manx Care. Well, with everything that's going on, I'd be surprised if it were anything other than that. However, remember, people are still doing a terrific job, wonderful job, from day to day to day. Do you remember we've heard Wilf Pawley in hospital said everybody is doing a great job. The nurses, the food, likes everything. A note in from Taylor, who just said, actually, I don't care about the politicians. I don't care about the civil servants. Manx Care belongs to the Manx people. And that's what it's for. It's not a job creation scheme. It's not for civil servants. It is to care for the Manx people. Thank you, Taylor. And Bonzo's on now. Hi, Bonzo.
Oh, hello, yes. Right, I'll just address Howard's remarks first. Of those 408 people who are in Manx or have been brought back into Manx Care, I would suggest that most of those are actually frontline or necessary support to the frontline staff, rather than, as he rather disparagingly sort of says, pen pushers. Because, well, pen pushers and IT people are the kind of people who make supplies and things come through the door, which without which doctors and other frontline staff can't do anything, or indeed get paid. So Howard, with his Trumpist obsession about DEI, well, of course, Trump's obsession with DEI has pretty much killed 70 people. 67 people.
Sorry, for the uninitiated, DEI is
diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Okay.
Yeah, but his obsession with that led to him sacking loads of people from the Federal Aviation Administration who actually knew what they were doing, and leading to rolling back of regulation. Indeed, the head of the FAA was sacked mainly because he was going to prosecute Elon Musk for negligence with his latest space launch, which led to the actual Starship breaking up over air routes and airliners having to dodge bits of falling metal.
Okay, anyway, back to Manx Care.
So back to Manx Care. As I say, those 420 people, those are people who have been brought back in as full-time employees, rather than people who were being employed on agency terms, which are hugely expensive. But of course, the reason that those people were previously being employed on agency terms was because there was this obsession with headcount, and jobs had to be lost, which meant that it was more expensive to actually provide those services. So there's a front cost in actually taking people on as full-time employees, but then you'll start to see a saving after that. But the whole thing politically absolutely stinks. And you can see what's going on here, that Claire Christian is most probably being stitched up. The statement that she was making to Lewis Foster, I think it was, just earlier, that sounded very much like a hostage note being read out, that I'm being treated very well and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Now, she, I think, is possibly being told what her policy will be, rather than she having any real input to it. And if, of course, she has behaved so negligently as Alf Cannon suggests, well, isn't Alf Cannon and David Ashford and somebody else one of her three minders who advise and guide her? No, this, as I say, you've got the problem of Manx Care is a problem. The person you probably will be pointing the finger at, therefore, is Cope. But Cope, of course, is somebody who's being employed. If you sack them, you'll get yet another very embarrassing and very, very expensive tribunal. So they're not going to do that. So Alf and other people aren't going to accept responsibility for it, or Alf or Alex, Treasury, are not going to accept responsibility for that. So it's the old Alan Partridge just sack Pat strategy. So, Claire's nearest the explosion, so we can blame her.
But let's bring it back to basics. I mean, from the person in the street, or if you like, the person who's in the queue for treatment at the hospital or the GP or the dentist or ophthalmology or wherever, they just want to be treated. And is the perception that spending money, I don't like the word pen pushers, but administrative staff, let's say that, is the perception that, hiring more administrative staff, is that a good thing or is it a bad thing? I mean, surely you want people on the ground who can do, who can wield the scalpels and who can wrap the bandages. That's what Manx Care is for, is to look after people. Surely there should be a smaller administrative body as possible to administer Manx Care.
Yes, but how big is that administrative body?
There we are.
Is that administrative body actually the sufficient size? Or is it not enough? There are these sort of common misconceptions about the civil service and other elements of the public service, that they're just there being feather-bedded and sit around all day drinking coffee and eating biscuits. Which is, I think there are a few who I think they might fit that description.
Well, there are a few in any organisation, Bonzo, aren't there?
But there are a few in any organisation. We all know that, and most of them, are trying to do their jobs in a condition of confusion from their sort of political and higher leadership. And I think that this will come down to, 19 days out from the budget now. And this has all the signs, all the runes of, we don't have any money. We really don't have any money. We're living from hand to mouth, and we've got no more in the way of liquid assets to dispose of. So if we want to raise any more money, and they were talking about, indeed, it was part of the Treasury plan, I think, about assessing which assets may be available for disposal. No, it was in Alf's statement, wasn't it? And of course, what assets do you have that can realise lots of money? 2 I can think of, which would come up with that kind of cash. Steam packet, privatising Manx Utilities.
Well, Bonzo. Well, and how likely do you think either of those are?
Depends how bad the financial situation is. I mean, the steam packet would be readily saleable, probably for what we paid for it, 120 million. And although there'd have to be guarantees on on a lengthy sea services agreement for it to be saleable. And as for Manx Utilities, I'm sure various people like United Utilities and stuff would be rather interested in it.
Okay, all right, Bonzo. I appreciate your insight into that today. Thanks for calling.
Okay, cheers, bye.
Bye now. 25-1 on Mannin Line today. Bonzo mentioned the budget's not that far away. Of course, we'll be dedicating a whole day, really, to the budget. The budget will be live. We'll be talking to the politicians. And on Wednesday, the 26th of February, Dr. Allinson will be on Mannin Line. So we'll be talking about what's happened after the budget with Dr. Allinson on Mannin Line then. In between then, we're back at the schools as well, Castle Rushen and St Ninians and QE2, and we're open line today through till 1.
I'm detecting a cyber attack on our client systems.
OK, analyse the incident and ensure any malicious activity is blocked.
OK, our response tools have automatically blocked the attack.
Great, I'll put together an incident response plan, notify the client, and can we confirm protection across all clients?
You don't always see how cybersecurity is working in the background to keep your business safe and running smoothly. But CND will identify, protect, detect and respond to any cyber attack, leaving you to focus on your business and customers.
Hi, how can I help you today?
Computer Network Defence, CND. Visit cndltd.com to see how we can protect your business today. When you need a fitting memorial or headstone for a loved one, contact Manx Memorials in Peel. This long-standing family-run Manx company offer a wide range of granite and marble headstones and memorials, along with an island-wide inscription and renovation service. Manx Memorials skilled professionals will take the time to help you choose a suitable memorial, and we're proud to say we'll beat other local quotes. Call 843 861 or email matthew@manxmemorials.co.uk.
Isn't it time to treat your home to something special? The Lifestyle Furniture Winter Sale is now on, and it's our biggest yet. Pop in, grab a delicious free coffee, and enjoy amazing savings on absolutely everything. From sumptuous sofas, luxurious beds, dining, living furniture, and so much more. Discover a wonderland of one-off winter offers throughout our showroom. See our website for opening times. The Winter Sale at Lifestyle Furniture. It's everything your home's been waiting for.
The Isle of Man is known as the road racing capital of the world. But have you ever wondered what it truly takes for riders to make it here?
My old saying, which I live by, if you want it bad enough, you'll get it.
In the Journey to a Dream podcast, we dive into the untold stories about the determination, skill and passion that fuel these riders as they seek racing glory.
It must have been a nightmare to work with and live with or whatever, because that was literally the only thing going through my mind.
I still go down Bray Hill and you're going, how are we allowed to do this?
Journey to a Dream, brought to you by Kawasaki Insurance, available at motorsport.manxradio.com or your favourite podcast provider.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Fastermy, good afternoon. A note in from WhatsApp, you are number 108, who just said, what about all that silent noise from the turbines, which causes damage to humans up to 53 miles away? Is it 53 miles? I mean, there is vibration, certainly, from the big turbines, and these turbines are going to be huge then, aren't they? Down from 389 metres to 350 and only 87 rather than 100, but they're going to be bigger blades, that is. Picture them. Just picture them up the east coast. From Laxey upwards, 87 wind turbines offshore, 1,000 feet high. I got a message in from Carrie who said, will there be red lights on top of all of these wind turbines? Well, there have to be a red light on the top of the, where the top of the tower is there. So that, really, it's 1,000 feet. Nobody flies at less than 1,000 feet, do they? Because there would be trouble, wouldn't there? And also, we've got dark skies. The astronomers on the Isle of Man are very proud. They jealously guard that dark skies. Surely, if these things do have red lights on the top, 87 red lights off the east coast wouldn't do much for the dark skies, would they? You couldn't see much past those. Robert's on now. Hi, Robert.
Hi, I was thinking about taking up Kung Fu.
Oh, crikey. How come?
Well, I'm just looking. I mean, I can't spare the ligament, but I'm just thinking about the housing crisis, and I may be catastrophizing a bit, but I believe Gary's Economics says the house price is going to double in the next 5 years.
Double?
They're going to double, yeah.
Blimey. Well,
that's what they're saying.
Oh, wow. Well, they talk about supply and demand, and what the government's wanting to do is to get a lot more houses built so that the prices will come down.
Yes, but they're affiliated Dandara properties, aren't they? They're not social housing, so we're going to be caught in the same noose as we always were about how far are we away from the city and all the rest of it.
Well, what about if the councils and the commissioners want to build public sector houses? Would that be okay?
It's not the same as social housing, is it? Is that the same as social housing?
Yeah, so they build social houses, yeah.
Right, okay, good. Well, that's a good move. Right, we're on to it then, aren't we? So get the social housing built so we can live in it and we can actually do something with what we've got.
And when are you taking up Kung Fu?
I'm not taking up Kung Fu.
Oh,
I just
sorry.
made an egg. I just had a fried egg, that's all.
Oh,
There's no
okay.
cheese today, sorry.
All right. Good to hear from you. Thanks, Robert. Thanks for being with us today. I disagree, says 528. I disagree with Julian on a lot of things, but I wish he could investigate Manx Care's finances. Thank you for that. Manx Care have taken on staff that have already taken early retirement from other departments and have been paid out plus a pension. Remember, this is somebody's opinion, by the way. There's no documentation to this. Government economist early retirement went touring for 6 months, then gets a manager's job in the ENT department at Nobles. Well, I don't think that's illegal. I mean, if things are available, then there's nothing wrong with that. Serious question. How can the Isle of Man sustain an all-singing, all-dancing total health service in 2025 funded by 80,000 people? I think Manx Care have been given an impossible job. Thanks also to 857. Okay, as I thought, said Big John in Ramsey, all of the school students you interviewed yesterday were in favour. I didn't interview them, by the way, they chattered. I like to stay completely out of it. I thought the school students that were there yesterday were in favour of wind farms. We must listen to the next generation. It's fair to say there wasn't much opposition to the wind farms yesterday. They were talking about, now, you can, interpret that however you want. But one thing that is incontrovertible, they're the next generation. They are the future. The 16 and 17-year-olds who were on Mannin Line yesterday have possibly got another 70 years of their life to live. I can guarantee I don't, but there we are. Juan's on now. Hi, Juan.
Andy, well, with all this here Twitter stuff that's going round and these Nazi salutes, I should be saying Guten Tag, Herr Wint. Whose bright idea was it in government to stop the Twitter feeds? I mean, do they not think there's going to be some comeback in that? I mean, who's giving government advice these days?
No, I'll be honest with you, nobody stepped forward to say it was I.
Well, there's a surprise. And I believe Sky News is in realms of going bankrupt as well. So I wonder where Head of News is going to get her news from then. Maybe she'll have to go to Google like all we'll do to get our news. That's interesting for you. Bonzo, sorry, I keep getting that wrong. He loves Trump, doesn't he? Anything that Trump does, he will go against. And he's talking about pen pushers. Wasn't he a pen pusher for the UK government? He seems to have a hatred for our government, but he was very much involved with the UK government, I believe.
Stuart, hang on. His opinion is just as valid as yours.
Absolutely, Andy, absolutely. But you know what? He's very quick to criticise myself and a few others on here in an arrogant statement sometimes. I can take it, not a problem. But you know what? Take it back as well. DADEIs and ESGs have been a problem for a long time now. We've mentioned this on this programme for a long time. This government has followed these agendas, and I think Alf Cannon said to me that they had to keep companies happy for them to be here or they'd move off the island. And if you look at you go into the bookwork of likes of KPMG and all these big companies, they follow all these DEIs and ESGs and diversity and equity and inclusion. And all this stuff is costing a fortune to maintain. And we used to have common sense. That's all going out the window with that, hasn't it? Now, I just wanted to go on to what I was going to phone for was the Manx Care. So it's obviously a more complicated problem than just getting rid of Teresa Cope or getting rid of Claire Christian. The government for quite many years now has invested in promoting the Isle of Man for retired people to come here who are retired and settle down here. So consequently, them people have obviously paid into the system all their lives, national insurance. So when the day comes that they want treatment, quite likely, they want treatment. So we've got more of a distorted older population here than what we had before. If you look at normal city demographics, you've got working people, younger people putting into the system. So the people here now, you get a lot of people here now who live here temporarily sometimes, but are registered here on the island, who come here, they're going up getting blood works done every week, they've got cataracts, they've got all sorts of problems. So they've paid into the system over the years and not needed anything because they've all been fit and healthy. But now then people, quite rightly, they actually want treatment. So that's going to put a big strain on our health service now for doctors and nurses. We've also got, let me just have a look, we've got companies now advertising free healthcare. Let's have a look. Bridging the Gap Migration. Advertising, actually in South Africa, as it happens to. About 30 minutes away from me, their office. But they're actually advertising for people to come and relocate to the Isle of Man with different investments, startups, etc., which is great. Inward migration, if they're putting into the country, is great. But they're advertising free healthcare. Now, we haven't got private healthcare, so how are they getting free healthcare? What initiatives or what carrots are the government dangling to get them people here? And the point I'm making with this is we haven't got enough hospital beds and expertise to cope with our own people. People are waiting for dentists, people are waiting to get seen, and of course this last debacle which we've got now. So I'm just wondering, I mean, I don't know what the answer is, Andy, but...
Well, do you think this is what's behind the Ireland plan to get an extra 15,000 people here, and 4,000 of those are going to be workers? So they're going to be putting money into the system. Is the only answer to this? I mean, short of making the retirement age 90... to get more people working, you're going to have to bring workers in from somewhere to put into the system.
You are, and you know what, this is a complicated case. I'll go back to the woman, was it Jill, that was on a few weeks ago, prompting the case of a migrant woman with her children, was short of something to do with her kids and everything. So obviously that family's come over and they're not working. So you've got one person who's working in the family and you've got a party of four. So then people are all going to go on the NHS. So I'm just wondering how we cope with that going forward. That's the thing. If you'll get an influx of people and there's only one worker in that family, they're all taken off our health system. So I don't know, maybe someone can come on and explain that to me, someone who knows a little bit better within government. But at the moment, I'm struggling to find someone who does know any better in government.
All right, Jim, have a good weekend. Thanks for being with us.
Take care, Andy.
Thanks for that. 11 minutes before 1. There's a message in from Mike, who just said, well, remember, if people do come to the Isle of Man, it's not just direct taxation that those people contribute through national insurance and income tax, but indirect taxation. Everybody pays VAT. The moment you buy something, anything really, apart from food, you pay VAT. So the government, and of course if those people purchase vehicles, there'll be taxes associated with that. There'll be road tax, whatever it's called these days, and VAT, which will go. So it's not just direct taxation. Indirect VAT receipts are very important to the Isle of Man. David's with us now. Hello, David.
Hi, Andy. Maybe you should have a little disclaimer at the front that all contributors should play nice.
Yes, well, that's it. I mean, we disagree, but we disagree politely.
Yeah, and that's the way to do it. But what we need to do, and this thing about the apprentices has come up again as far as I'm concerned. I had a number of people on to me who I know from the past and whatever. But the major issue is there's no incentive for an employer to pick up an apprentice. They can get to the the college, and have a course, but part of the conditions, and I wish maybe you could get somebody on, Andy, about the Starship Enterprise, and talk about what are they doing for the future of the population that's here. How are we getting them into a trade? How are we pushing that along? How are we retraining them that they want to go somewhere else? But I did see a thing on Facebook there that UCM up at the college there, Greenfield Road there, have invited the employees in for a cosy chat. Now, I can't find it again, but maybe your newsroom could probably pick it up and then find out what's the problem. Why have they suddenly done this? Is it the employers now have suddenly said, we're not taking on apprentices because you're not giving us any money? A first and second year apprentice, and I'm not disparaging to them, they're going to learn a little bit, but they won't be able to charge, firms won't be able to charge an apprentice out, will you, on year 1 or 2, because the people are not going to pay it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're employing somebody to do work at your house, the firm's stacking up some of the contribution to themselves. And I'd like to know, too, where the government's involved here. How many are we carrying in within government at the DOI? And especially to the skills for the lads that are on the road. There's a skill in everything, even if you're a labourer.
Yeah.
There's a skill in being a labourer. You don't just take somebody off and just say, dig a hole, you do this, that, or the other. You employ a labourer. And there's some big firms out there. And somebody was saying the other day, why do we not check if they're qualified people anymore?
Yeah.
We used to have people who used to go around the site, and they were from the DHSS. They made sure they were supposed to be here on the island, was one of them. Were they paying the right rate, and were they registered? And we should be still doing that.
Well, at the moment, who's doing that? Who's checking that people are registered and qualified?
Well, it used to be like what we call the Employers Federation. There was the unions were involved in that. I don't hear the unions anymore coming in and saying, I mean, years ago I used to complain about people bringing people in and doing the work which lads could have done on the island. You know, the bigger companies, and I'll name them all too as well, 'cause some of them are gone, but it's like the Tesco. But they use the excuse their group of people they use are in straight away. But what about the maintenance stuff on it, on their buildings? That can be done locally.
Okay.
All right. I'll leave it to it, but I'll whinge next week.
All right, bless you. Thanks for calling today. Have a good weekend. 7 minutes before 1. I'd like now for you to have a listen to Joney Faragher. This was the woman, the MHK, who posed the question in Parliament earlier on. The Manx Care has denied attempting to gag its staff from speaking out over cuts being made in the health service. It says no specific directive has been issued instructing staff not to discuss the current reduction in services. Douglas East representative Joney Faragher MHK says the information vacuum about the cancellation of off-island surgery has been unforgivable. Joney Faragher.
Staff members are reporting that they feel frightened to talk about this, with some saying that they've been told they're not allowed to talk about the cuts, that they've been gagged, basically. And that's something that I would also expect to be investigated in future, because these staff members have come forward because they're worried about their patients.
You've been contacted by your constituents, by members of the public. What does that show or say about transparency? I mean, you're one of the politicians on the island. This is something that you should have known about, but you and Mr. Hooper were on Facebook trying to get as much information as y'all could. It seemed as though the Manx public were a bit more informed than the politicians itself.
That media release had been sent out on the 15th of January. It was embargoed until the following day. At that point, politicians were still being told, even a week later, there would be no cuts. No cuts were planned. And I really do think that the Council of Ministers should undertake for that never to happen again, and to explain why it's happened this time. People need to be able to trust in their politicians. If the trust isn't there, it doesn't really matter what we say or what we do, and nobody's going to believe it.
Joney Faragher talking there. I'll make a sweeping generalisation, if I may. I know all the politicians, MHKs and MLCs, will be happy to talk to you. If you want to chat about this to your MHK or to an all-island MLC, I'm sure they would welcome. If you've got an opinion, or if you've got something that you'd like to report, then talk to you. I mean, the Isle of Man is in a perfect place. Our politicians are really down the street. They're there to be talked to. And particularly if you've got an elected representative, I know they'd like to hear from you. Let's see who's got a better idea than wind farms. Instead of moaning about it, says 375. If they build more social housing, can I have one, please? It'd be great to pay subsidised rent. And when you have to go into a home, there's no charge, says John. A note in just says DEI non-jobs cost a fortune to maintain and produce zero profit. I think they should be scrapped, says Mark. I was wrong. The turbine heights are decreasing, says this correspondent. Lots of messages in today concerning this subject. I'll try and get through a lot of them. And one particular that's... where are we? Here we are. This is the one I wanted to get to. The turbines will be higher than Godzilla. I don't know. How high is Godzilla? Let me see. I put a question in straight away when the figure became knowledge, says this WhatsApper 598. A web news report notes that Mr. Cannon has said that 20% of government posts are vacant, but he didn't say what the posts won't be filled, that is. There's been yet another report of an out-of-control dog attacking sheep. Owners of dogs, says Sue, which attack sheep should be made to pay every penny of the farmer's vet's bills and any other loss to the farmer. They should be banned from keeping a dog. If somebody went into a shop and ransacked it and stole goods, they'd be hunted down and punished. There's a similar crime, but stock is killed rather than stolen, and nobody seems to care. We never hear any of the owners of the dogs being prosecuted and made to pay all the costs. It's unbelievable. It's still happening, and it's time it was taken more strictly. That's it. Have a great weekend.
WIN